Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Justin Thomas James here with another cold reads of Crowned in Black, Archemi Online, Volume 6 by James Osiris Baldwin. How you doing today? If you're watching this, please leave a comment in the YouTube chat. We are just on YouTube today, not streaming to Facebook to save the SBT feed a little bit, because it takes up a lot of room, all of these posts. I'm back in the booth today. I'm back in the booth today. I'm back in the booth today. Yeah, it just starts to clog up. So I'm figuring that streaming just to YouTube is the way to go. Please, as always, like the video. If you don't like it, leave a thumbs down. Tell me why you don't like it. Always looking for ways to improve. But I mean, if you're kind of on the fence, give it a thumbs up. Why not? What else we got going today? Well, James is going to be joining us in a little bit. I need to give him a link, so I'm going to do that now. Let's copy this, and boom. Just letting him know that we're live, but if he is unable to make it today, then that is understandable. These audiobooks take a lot to produce. I'm going to be in the booth a lot recording this thing. So, especially this book. I think this is 170 words or something like that. So, it's a big boy. Hopefully my audio is working all right. I'm just going to do a little sound test. Let me switch over. Give me 2 seconds. You'll probably be able to hear the test that I do. Oh, what am I doing? View on YouTube. Yeah, okay, so everything is sounding good. Fantastic. Well, hope you'll say hello. Sounding great on live stream. Thank you, Evan. Evan, are you? How do you know Archemi Online? Have you read these books, or are you just popping in from the vast wilderness of YouTube? Or are you here from Soundbooth Theater? Watched or listened to Soundbooth Theater titles? Or how'd you discover us? Doc. DCC? Are you a doctor? Doc was the response. All of these are going to be recorded and put into DCC. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. All of these are going to be recorded and put on the Soundbooth Theater platform, SBT Direct. You can download that by going to soundbooththeater.com or just look up Soundbooth Theater SBT Direct, either one, on, what's it called? You know, the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, or wherever you get your apps. But yeah, we're on iPhone, we're on Android. So you can listen to audiobooks there. You'll be able to listen to this as well as part 1. What else can I tell you? Definitely check out the Soundbooth Theater app if you haven't already. Evan Meidel, you are here because of DCC. If you haven't already, there is a little bit of Dungeon Crawler Carl bonus content on the SBT platform, on Soundbooth Theater Direct. So you're going to want to check that out. Hear a little bit of Donut doing her thing, if you haven't already. If you have, then I'm just kind of bloviating here. Great word, eh? Bloviating. I must say, I am sounding really good right now. There's something about my microphone that's just, it's just crystal clear. Let me know if you disagree. But I'm feeling good. I think this is going to be a good session. Robert Jenkins, welcome. Robert Jenkins just jumped into the chat in YouTube. Hello, Robert. I'm taking just about 10-15 minutes just to get set up here and just chat, get to know the people. Robert, so you discovered SBT. So have you heard of James Osiris Baldwin or Archemi Online? If you haven't, well, I'll just tell you. So Archemi Online is an epic lit RPG written by James Osiris Baldwin that is kind of, I guess, the premise is the world is ending. And there's like a big virus going around. Everybody's dying. Humanity's on its last legs. And so people get uploaded to this video game, just like the last dredges of humanity. And in this game, Hector Park, the main character, starts a new life. And the game is very advanced, obviously, as you can imagine. But there are some issues. There are some glitches in the system, and weird stuff starts to happen. And, well, now we're in book 6, and the glitchy things are getting weirder and weirder and harder to kind of figure out. And there's some malice within the system. Malice would be a great name for a villain. I'm sure it already is somewhere. But let's see here, making sure that everybody can see me fine. Yes, okay, looking good, sounding good. What Robert Jenkins says, no, you have not listened to Archemi Online. Well, if you have not, then I definitely recommend it. One thing that is special about this series is that there is a soundtrack, original soundtrack composed by yours truly. And book 1, there's maybe about 15 minutes of original content, music content, but books 2 onwards, there's a good amount of music. So you definitely want to check that out. There are some soundtracks available online. You will learn, and you've probably already heard if you are tuning in from past streams, that I am a huge Final Fantasy nerd. I love Final Fantasy. And the music, well, if you listen to the music, you'll hear pretty quickly that, yeah, that's where I get a lot of my influence. Nobuo Uematsu. Hopefully I'm pronouncing his name correctly. So, what do we say we get started here? It looks like James is going to be a little bit later, so we might as well jump right into some narration. Let's do this. So, okay, so let's go open the script. There's so many things to keep track of while streaming, and my ADD brain is just not equipped for it. Let's see. Oh, okay, no, it's an Excel document. We started putting our scripts into Excel. Fun fact. File, open, recent, and Archemi Online, Crowned in Black audio drama script. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, so I'll put this over to the left side. Oh. There we go. All these little micro adjustments. All right. And then we put the Ableton set. I use a program called Ableton Live. All Sound Booth Theater titles are through Ableton Live, which is a great program. If anybody here is into audio production, that's what we use. Boom, 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 boo, 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 boo. All right, we are on Chapter 3, and, well, I might as well go and screen share here. Thank you for hanging, Evan. Go do your work. We'll see you back here in a little bit. If you are listening to this on the SBT Direct platform, be sure to go and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're kind of like, it's like a network now. We got SBT Direct, we got YouTube, we got Discord. Actually, hey, that's actually a good point. I should make a comment in the Discord that I am back. Let me do that. Discord, you can find us, Sound Booth Theater. I believe the link is in the description. So definitely check us out there. And hey, let's see here. Announcements at listener. I'll do notification squad this time. There are 2 squads. There's the listener squad, or there's more than 2, but listeners is the whole of the SBT group, and then there's the notification squad, and that's who I'm going to ping this time. On YouTube with Cold Reads Part 2 of Crowned in Black. Come. Chapter 3. And set up for the first mission. Wonderful. All right. Oh my goodness, so many distractions too. I'm getting emails, I'm getting notifications. Well, let us not stay distracted. Let's jump right in. That's chapter 2 and chapter 3. Here we go. Chapter 3. All right, got to turn up a bit. Well, actually, I'll be able to do it from here. Nope. They skidded to a stop. They skidded to a stop. That's a bit louder. There we go. That should be better. All right. Here we go. Chapter 3. Coralti appeared high above. Good start. Coralti appeared high above Kalasahasi, groaning. Coralti appeared high above Kalasahasi, groaning under our collective weight as a cold crosswind blasted her from the north. I could see and feel the tension in the other passengers as she seesawed toward the triangular courtyard below. As she came in, she intentionally let the wind blow her sidelong until she was anchored in the current, then dipped a wing and slid through the sheer to reverse her direction, hover, and touch down in a perfect crosswinds landing. Let's do thought track. Beautiful flying tidbit. I clapped my dragon on the neck and rose to my feet, looking back as our passengers began to unbuckle themselves and each other. Masha scrambled over to Simon and began to do first aid. Rutha, who was holding the stricken man in her arms, was pale but composed. Everyone all right? Everyone all right? All right, just going to check and make sure that the volume's right. All right, can always turn it up. Everyone all right? I clapped. I'm fine. Nethris replied in her hoarse, husky voice. She was already helping Kithias. She was already helping Kithias with the Master Sage. The elderly man was shaking and looked like he was close to crying, puking, or both. Well, Hector, I wouldn't have quite taken the approach that you did with Janos, but was he really wearing the symbol of the cult of the architect? Rutha asked me. Rutha asked me as I scooped one arm under her legs, the other around her shoulders, and lifted her, Kuralti. Poop. Rutha asked me as I scooped one arm under her legs, the other around her shoulders, and lifted her up. Kuralti rumbled like a pissed-off jet engine at the motion of the cult. She'd spent her earliest... Kuralti rumbled like a pissed-off jet engine at the mention of the cult. She'd spent her earliest months on the run with me, hiding from the Ilian Secret Service and cult of the architect, and her beef with them was personal. 100%. The little rat fucker pulled the pin off his collar as soon as he was caught, too. The little rat fucker pulled the pin off his collar as soon as he was caught, too. The little rat fucker pulled the pin off his collar as soon as he was caught, too. The little rat fucker pulled the pin off his collar as soon as he was caught, too. I carried her toward Kuralti's wing. The dragon read my intention through the bond, dipping the limb to the ground like a ramp so I could crouch and slide down with Rutha in my arms. Dipping the limb to the ground like a ramp so I could crouch and slide down with Rutha in my arms. I turned back as Abisa joined us on the ground, carrying Masha on her back. If Janos doesn't have something to do with Ignas getting captured, I'll eat my damn spear. Did you hear what Pasha Aswan almost said? If Janos doesn't have something to do with Ignas getting captured, I'll eat my damn spear. Did you hear what Pasha Aswan almost said to him? But you swore, Rutha finished grimly. That's what he was trying to say before Songrad's thug put a boot in his head. Aye, Abisa rasped, head swiveling back to her. We all heard it. You truly believe the Regent has betrayed the crown? Kithias stared down at the group of us in astonishment. I fucking know Janos has betrayed the crown. He was flaunting his true allegiance in front of the entire court, and no one noticed. Oh, that should be Hector. Change the script here. Oh. I fucking know Janos has betrayed the crown. He was flaunting his true allegiance in front of the entire court, and no one noticed. He was flaunting his true allegiance in front of the entire court, and no one noticed except me. He blinked. How? These weird eyes aren't for show, I replied. I can zoom my vision in and out. I can zoom my vision in and out, pick up about 10,000 more colors than a normal human, and see the back of my own ass. I can zoom my vision in and out. I can zoom my vision in and out, pick up about 10,000 more colors than a normal human, and see the back of my own ass. Oh, Kithias replied. That must be entertaining. But what is the significance of this symbol you saw? But what is the significance of this symbol you saw? Nemeth demanded. Nemeth demanded in a quavering voice. But what is the significance of this symbol you saw? But what is the significance of this symbol you saw? Saw. It means that Songrad isn't just allied with Rorgil, Master Sage, Rutha answered him. It means that he worships him, and perhaps the other architects as some kind of savior. According to His Majesty, his brother was a cult member. And so is Janos. Abisa was still wearing her mask, but I didn't need to see her expression to read the sudden, murderous tension in her spider-thin limbs. Ignas forgave him for his support of Andrik, and Janos seemed to thrive under his regard. His Majesty had me investigate thoroughly, of course. Spies in Songrad's court, people watching him in Taltos. I told my king that he was clean, trustworthy. Somehow he evaded a detection until now. He may be a recent convert. I watched her closely, frowning slightly. If you did your due diligence, then any slip in your intelligence was a system failure, not a personal one. We can improve the process. Ignis will be dead by then, or worse. Excuse me, Your Grace. I must go and contemplate my errors. Abisa didn't actually wait for permission. Before I'd even seen her move, she flitted across the courtyard, blinking in and out of sight, then bounded up the side of one of the towers like a ribbon of quicksilver, a blur so fast that even my eyes couldn't follow. I stepped forward as if to try and call her back, but Rutha gently laid her hand against my shoulder and shook her head. No, Hector. Give her space. Ignis is dear to her, personally and professionally. She struggles with guilt she must process alone. Yeah. I sighed, watching as Kithias gingerly carried the Master Sage to the ground. Nethris took Simon. Rather than slide... Oh, am I streaming this? No, I'm not. Well, we'll take a little break here just to say hello. Hello, J-Mac!
Hello, J-Mac! Hello, J-Mac!
No, I don't know Donut very well. And Blind Dude DC. Hello, Blind Dude. Welcome. All right, let me share screen, and I'll show you the script that I'm working with. There we go. You guys should be able to see that. Beautiful. All right. Let's get to it. Rather than slide down Karalti's wing, the Valkyrie concentrated on the runes scribed into her armor. Several of them flared with blue light as she jumped. She floated serenely to the ground with the wounded mage in her arm. At least we know Janos is crooked, Nethris said once she joined us. Don't know about you, Hector, but I got a quest. Did you read it? Not yet. I drew a deep breath and straightened up. Behind our group, Karalti folded her wings in tightly against her flanks, reared upright, and morphed down into her preferred human form, a small, lithe, fit woman with a silky curtain of black, thigh-length flat braids. Oh, that's not the end of the sentence. A small, lithe, fit woman with a silky curtain of... A small, lithe, fit woman with a silky curtain of black, thigh-length flat braids, pearly pale skin, and 7 small back-swept horns that were reminiscent of her queen's crest. Cythias happened to glance back as she transformed, and spun away, blushing furiously as she began to equip her armor. Did I get it? Her gear, damn it. And spun away, blushing furiously as she began to equip her gear. Course balls! Course balls, boy! Course balls, boy! Nemeth yelped as his apprentice nearly knocked him over. Sorry, sir. Cythias's face was scarlet from chin to hairline. While the others were distracted, I brought up my HUD. And opened the quest. Navigale the narrator obligingly began to read it out for me in her pleasant. Navigale the narrator obligingly began to read it out for me in her present melodic voice. New quest, The Hidden Hand. Vovode Janos Lance of Songrad, currently the regent of Vlachia, committed a critical error in his attempt to coup the royal court. All right, let that run for a little bit. Yeah, we got a few people watching. Say hello in the chat if you haven't already. I'm checking in on it every now and then, so. We love knowing who's here. Boop, 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 ba-doo. Renown, special, unknown. Oh, boop. Those motherfuckers, I muttered. This quest is ranked for level 50? That's crazy. Nethris looked even grimmer than usual. As she watched on. Has to be because of Aurorgale and Lucian. They're about that level. And Violetta. She may not be in Ravala, but she's got a hand in this as well. This shit with Duck Deer was all her doing. Intimidating as it was, I accepted the quest, watching it join my ever-growing shit I have to do to save Archemi list. All right, Cythias, you and Masha take Simon to the castle hospital and get him sorted out. Rutha, Karalti, Nethris, if you're willing, I want all 3 of you in the war room. Master Sage, you as well, unless you need to rest. I'm going to grab my steward and a few other advisors, and we'll plan our next steps. And what will those be? And what will those be? And what will those be? Nemeth peered at me. His cloudy blue eyes were still sharp with wit and intelligence. Don't tell me you're planning to ride in and rescue Ignas yourself. Don't tell me you're planning to ride in and rescue Ignas yourself. That is 100% what we are doing. I closed my HUD down and nodded to him. Lucian decided to fuck around. Now he gets to find out. "15 minutes later, the 8 of us had gathered in Kalasahasi's newly restored war room. At my insistence, the builders had kept this room as simple and functional as possible, minimizing distractions and maximizing planning space. One wall was made entirely of cork, a place to pin maps and attach strings. There was a sideboard with water, wooden cups, and fruit, and a long wooden table with a terrain map of Misno mounted in the center, all major landmarks mapped. When I highlighted it, the KMS informed me that there was a fast travel upgrade available, but not until I'd reached level 50. Maybe that was how Baldur Aurorgale was zipping around Artana so quickly. So, here's what we know. I stood at the head of the... I stood at the head of the table, Karalti standing at ease beside me. Ignas flew out with some 50,000 troops. About half of them were either killed or captured when Dakdir turned on the First Fleet from behind. Most of the Second Fleet escaped and are rallying at the border. Rather than sacrifice his men, Ignas surrendered. As far as we know, he's currently being held by Lucian at the Lion Palace in Ravala's capital, Lovi. As far as we know, he's currently being held by Lucian at the Lion Palace. He's currently being held by Lucian at the Lion Palace in Ravala's capital, Lovi. There were nods from everyone present. Nemeth was seated beside Rutha to my right, Istvan and Captain Vilmos to my left. Vash leaned against the wall almost directly behind Istvan, arms and ankles crossed. Nethris was perched nervously on a seat almost at the other end of the oval table, her brows furrowed. From this point, we get into speculation. Given Janos was flaunting his Cult of the Architect pin, I'm gonna guess Aurorgale used a spy to contact Janos and tell him he was some kind of chosen one, and Aurorgale had a way to get him onto the throne. Janos or one of his proxies tipped off Ilya about the First Fleet. I would also... I would appreciate more explanation of this Cult of the Architect, Nemeth said. He had his hands folded in front of him, voice shaky with fatigue, but otherwise clear. I am the Master Sage of Vlachia, appointed by Ignas's father when he was still young, but all I know of this cult is from you. I would appreciate more explanation of this Cult of the Architect. I am the Master Sage of Vlachia. Appointed by Ignas's father when he was still young, but all I know of this cult is from you, Your Grace. That's because they're secretive as hell. Everything we know is from one low-ranked flunky, plus Andrik's secret journals. I nodded tersely. As far as we can tell, Aurorgale managed to convince some people that the architects, him specifically, are the gods above gods in Archemi. Both Andrik and his minions believe Aurorgale will give them the power to raise from the dead, like Starborn do. Both Andrik and his minions believe Aurorgale will give them the power to raise from the dead, like Starborn do. But he can't do that, can he? He certainly never raised the dead when I was younger. Rutha's lilac eyes were dark with anger. Let me make a note there. Rutha's lilac eyes were dark with anger. Aurorgale had been her mentor and her creator. Rutha had been crafted by him to be his perfect little elf girlfriend, and he'd treated her like dirt. For her. For her, this was personal. He might have been able to. He might have been able to once, but now? No. The, magic of this world is blocking the architects from being able to use their full suite of powers. They literally can't access them. Functionally, the architects are just ordinary Starborn with access to better gear and some level hacks, as well as meta information about the best ways to exploit this world. So Aurorgale can't live up to the promises he's made to people like Janos, but they don't know that. So Aurorgale can't live up to the promises he's made to the people like Janos. But they don't know that. I see. I see. The Master Sage mulled on that for a moment or two. So, the Regent is being deceived, even as he deceives our nation. So, the Regent is being deceived, even as he deceives our nation. Maybe. Or maybe he's just an asshole. I leaned forward on the edge of the table. Point being, I think Janos was in cahoots with Dakdir, and I think he handed Ignas and the First Fleet to Ilya on a platter so he could take power. You all saw how he and Pasha were trying to position me and Suri to take a fall. The people who'd been there nodded. Istvan and Vash both arched their eyebrows, looking around the room. It was all a sham. Janos admitted he knew. It was all a sham. Janos admitted he knew that we'd be in Bashir. Janos admitted he knew that we'd be in the Bashir salvaging Withering Rose, but before I stepped out, he was acting like he was taking Pasha seriously. Janos admitted he knew that we'd be in the Bashir salvaging Withering Rose, but before I stepped out, he was acting like he was taking Pasha seriously. What I want to know is, how the fuck did the Dakhari fleet know where to find us? And how did Pasha know we were in the Bashir? He may have deduced it. Istvan motioned elegantly with a hand as he spoke up. He might have deduced it. Russian. He may have deduced it. Yeah. If Songrad knew you were in the Bashir, he could have instructed Pasha to report such details as he knew. Or we have a spy, Karalty added. Nemeth and Nethris both had never heard her before, and they startled up as the dragon's sweet, melodic, telepathic voice intruded on their own thoughts. Across the room, Vash's thin, weathered face scrunched into a deep scowl. I exhaled heavily. We need to make sure we don't, but I'm hoping and praying that Istvan's right. If someone was reporting live to Violetta, then they'd have to be a Starborn, a player character. There were only 3 other Starborn with us in the desert, Rin, Gar, and Suri, but I can't... it seems crazy to suspect any of them. Your Grace, with all due respect, Mercurians are not known for their love of humankind. Your Grace, with all due respect, Mercurians are not known for their love of humankind, Istvan said darkly. And as you've told me, Rin is the slayer of Taltos' daughter. No, it can't be Rin. But even I felt a needle of doubt. For some reason, I had never been able to completely trust Rin. Maybe it was because she was an architect who'd known Aurorgiel personally. Maybe because she'd been trying to protect said slayer of Taltos. Maybe it was because she'd been trying to protect said slayer of Taltos when I'd first met her. Sure, she'd eventually shaken off her Stockholm Syndrome and stopped covering her serial killer surrogate. Sure, she'd eventually shaken off her Stockholm Syndrome and stopped covering for her serial killer surrogate father, but still. Suri would die before she gave any information over to the Sultir. Of the 3 of them, Gar is the one who has the most reason to turn on us. Gar is the one who has the most reason to turn on us. We hired him for a journey to Muhome, and the trip trashed his airship. We got it repaired, but there might be some bad blood there. Captain Vilmos bristled, hands tensing on top of the table. Vilmos. What does Vilmos sound like, eh? What does Vilmos sound like? Oh, 1 second. Hiya, hiya, hiya. Hiya, hiya, hiya. Voice reference. Vilmos.
The chance to serve in the presence of a dragon is truly a once-in-a-generation opportunity.
He's with Lady Suri right now, is he not? Is she safe? She hasn't called an SOS, but let me check. I pulled up my HUD and shot off a quick 1-line message to Suri. Everything good out there? Oh, you guys hear my notification? Everything good out there? Everything good out there? 15 seconds later, the chat thread booped, and my narrator read the text to me. 15 seconds later, the chat thread booped, and my narrator read the text to me. I think it should be Suri. Yeah, Suri. Roger, all good. Halfway to Mesno, no more hostiles. Any news on Ignas? Yeah. In a meeting. I'll call you in an hour. Love you. Suri sent back 2 characters. A heart. Suri sent back a heart emoji. Suri sent back a heart emoji. Yeah, Suri's fine. Yeah, Suri's fine. I closed the HUD and refocused on the people in front of me. Istvan and Vilmos both relaxed. Slightly. Across the room, Vash cleared his throat.
Baru are trained to soothsay. to tell lies from truth. That man who arrived here with the ship, Gar, he has his secrets. But when I look at him, I see only a man in great pain. I see no signs of a traitor in him. I'll be the first to say I'm not infallible, but by Rusulka's salty wet
Istvan coughed. Istvan cocked. Cocked? Istvan coughed, shooting a glance at Nemeth.
The pussy hairs!
Vash finished emphatically.
If any of the Starborn we know are sending information back to Violetta, Dragozin, I'll shave my head in shame.
You're right. You're not infallible, but it's comforting to hear. You're right. You're not infallible, but it's comforting. You're right. You're right. You're not infallible, but it's comforting to hear. But it's comforting to hear. I shook my head and rubbed the bridge of my nose. All right, let's shelve the mystery of Janos's information. All right. Let's shelve the mystery of Janos's information sources for the time being and refocus on Ignas. Assuming the Regent is a piece of shit, it's up to Ignas's personal allies to stage a rescue. Any ideas? There simply must be a Revalan resistance, Rutha said, glancing briefly at everyone around the table. Revala is a fiercely independent nation, proud and deeply loyal to their queen, and its rugged lands breed hard people. The lords of the land are more like warrior chiefs than foppish courtiers. Ilya is likely seeking to requisition the Flachian fleet to suppress the rest of the country. I can only imagine the uproar going on beyond, and perhaps within Lovey itself. Lovey itself. If there's a resistance, my prince will know of them, Nethris added. Which prince is that? Istvan asked her. Ilandi, Nethris replied softly. I work for the Kingsmen of Ilya. We have contacts and supporters in Revala. Don't know the names of those contacts, though, just that we have them. Could any of them help us? Could any of them help us get into Lovey? I asked her, because from what Ruth had just said about the Revalans being both proud and tough, it's unlikely they're imprisoning Ignas outside of the city. If I could get back to base, I could ask, Nethris replied, blinking back at me. She had big brown eyes, like a deer, and a homey, horsey face she hadn't glamorized when she'd entered the game. But it'll take me a week or more to fly back. Quasi aren't as fast as dragons. Coralti made a chirping sound low in her throat. If I can get some sleep, I can teleport you in the morning. Or, if you can give me mana and furnish me an oratory, I can teleport you, Rutha added. I need an oculium, but surely there is one to be found in Karhad somewhere. An what? I asked her. She flashed me a look of mock exasperation. An oculium is a device for creating temporary portals. 3 mana-conducting pylons set in a ring around a magical circle. Oh, wait, you know what? We actually have a set of those in the castle. I punched my fist into my other palm. Oh, wait, you know what? We actually have a set of those in the castle. I punched my fist into my other palm. We looted them out of Al-Assad. We looted them out of Al-Assad. Rutha smiled. Well, as long as they're in reasonably good shape and you can furnish me with some blue crystal mana, I can warp both the lady and her quasi into a destination of her choosing. They should be, and if they aren't, we can call in some of the Corsian priests from the city to fix them. I nodded to her, then looked to Nethris. You're sure you're willing to put us in touch with your allies? Sure. The Kingsmen were made for this. Nethris shrugged. Besides, Ignas seems all right. Explained why he needed me to stay in Vulcan Keep for a while. Made sure I was comfortable. Got XP and some gold out of it, too. Then party up with me so we can message each other more easily, I said. Maybe I'll cancel that one. Oh, that's it. Then party up with me so we can message each other more easily. As soon as you know what assistance your faction can offer, get in touch. We'll see what Rutha can do. If that fails, though, if that falls through, then Coralti can port you. She has to sleep 6 hours to replenish her spells, but we can warp in as soon as she's rested. She has to sleep 6 hours to replenish her spells, but we can warp in as soon as she's refreshed. She has to sleep 6 hours to replenish her spells, but we can warp in as soon as she's rested. Nethris jerked her chin toward me. Sounds like the start of a plan. I looked to Nemeth next. Master Sage, how do you know about Ravala? Master Sage, how much do you know about Ravala? Kithius winced. I am, in fact, the leading historian of Vlachia, in case the title of Master Sage. I am, in fact, the leading historian of Vlachia, in case the title of Master Sage has never been explained to you, the sage replied curtly. I'm assuming you want a brisk, if not superficial education in Ravala. History, culture. I'm assuming you want a brisk, if not superficial education in Revalan history, culture, and the formation of Lovey, along with its royal palace. I do. Any information on the layout and history of the city, its prisons and dungeons, and... Any information on the layout and history of the city, its prisons and dungeons, and things like that will help us infiltrate the place. I looked over to Istvan and Vilmos. Misno really needs the pair of you right now. Vilmos, do you have any... Misno really needs the pair of you right now. Vilmos, do you have any experience recruiting and handling spies? The burly Castellan nodded. Yes, my lord. Some. I want you to put out feelers to gain us spies in Songrad. We have enough money to pay for good informants. I'm going to tap the Night Stalkers and have you meet with them. No! I think I pressed the wrong button there. Whew, that's scary. I said... There we go. That's what I wanted to do. Just cutting out some dialogue tags here. The Night Stalkers? The crime syndicate? Vilmos recoiled in his chair. Vilmos recoiled in his chair. Vilmos recoiled in his chair. This information doesn't leave this room, but Ignas was the leader of the Night Stalkers during his exile. They're still on his side, and we need to know what Janos is doing. The Night Stalkers have the personnel and resources for this job. The Night Stalkers have the personnel and resources for this job.
I did not know that. Understand, sire, and... I understand, sire, and we'll see what can be done.
Vilmos cleared his throat, recovering from his moment of shock, and thumped his fist to his heart. I turned to Istvan next. The steward regarded me keenly. He was a man better described as pretty rather than handsome, with a lean, chiseled face, dusky skin, and intelligent green eyes no longer clouded by liquor and depression. 2 jobs for you, I said. The first and largest... The first and largest task is to form possible strategies for defending the province. The first and largest task is to form possible strategies. The first and largest task is to form possible strategies for defending the province at all. The first and largest task is to form possible strategies for defending the province at all levels. The first and largest task is to form possible strategies for defending. The first and largest task is to form possible strategies for defending the province at all levels, from the largest theater of war to the local defense of Karhad and Kalasahasi. You don't have to get massively specific yet. I just want to know what our weak spots are and to start brainstorming ideas about how to make them strengths. Secondly, I need you to call a conclave of all local rulers in the province. One representative from each duchy, freehold, and major tribe needs to meet with me here as soon as we bring Ignas home. If all goes well, that'll be within 48 hours, so say within the next 3 days.
Understood, Your Grace.
Istvan drew a deep breath at these ambitious orders, but he...
Understood, Your Grace.
Istvan drew a deep breath at these ambitious orders, but he and I both knew that he could pull it off. As for Ignas, the extraction team will leave as soon as we hear back from Nethris about support from the Kingsmen. I already know who I want. My gaze settled on Vash, who gave me an ironic little bow, then on Karalti. Me, Karalti, Vash, Abisa, and Maquette.
Wait! You are bringing the Wraith?
Vash grimaced.
The unholy undead abomination! The blight of...
Okay, I'm gonna have to put this...
Maquette.
How incredible! I think I spent my whole life searching for something like this, but passed the veil before I was able to lay eyes on it. Very well. I am curious now. I submit to your command.
Do not think to lecture me, Baru. I did not choose this state of being. Do not think to lecture me, Baru. I did not choose this state of being, Maquette hissed. I was a principled man all my life before I died. No one is more repulsed by my current state than I. Still, I consent to aid the last Corvinus. Still, I consent to aid the last Corvinus. In doing so, I shall achieve the dream I never attained in life, to become a part of Artana's history.
Vash shot me a sharp look, then sighed and scratched his chin with one metal finger.
Fine. I suppose being able to fart through walls and doors is useful. And the Black God hasn't struck us down for consorting with this wretched haunt, eh?
More's the pity, Maquette replied dourly.
Cut it out, both of you. The 5 of us working together will ace this rescue mission. We'll bang out a plan of action as soon as we know what's happening with the Kingsmen. Then, I suppose we should get to it then. Rutha looked to Nethris, who nodded agreement and rose. Sure. Best place for working magic is the library. Sure. Best place for working magic is the library. There's some guest quarters right next to it. Rutha, I'll assign those to you and have those octapillars sent up. Thank you. Thank you. She smiled at me, then turned her gaze to Nethris. If you don't mind, Lady Nethris, my wheelchair was left behind in Taltos and I can't walk. If it's not too much trouble, could you carry me? Nethris's freckled cheeks turned pink. She made a terse sound of agreement and equipped her winged visored helmet to conceal her expression as she went to go and scoop Rutha into her arms. She picked her up and nearly dropped her as Maquette finally emerged, slithering from the walls into the open. He still passingly resembled the tall, shaven-headed man he'd been in life, but was mostly just an intimidating mass of seething black energy. His substance seemed to boil off into the air around him. Istvan was the closest. As he leaned away, his breath began to frost.
If the lady would follow me, Maquette intoned, I will escort you to the library.
Sure. Nethris looked to me for guidance. I gave her a thumbs up. Thanks, Maquette? The wraith inclined his head to her, but then paused and turned toward Nemeth and Kithias with a deep smile. The wraith inclined his head to her, but then paused and turned toward Nemeth and Kithias with a deep bow.
To think that I needed to pass the veil to finally meet. To think that I needed to pass the veil to finally meet the renowned Master Sage of Vlachia. It is an honor.
Kithias looked like he was about to faint. The Master Sage was tight-lipped, but after a moment of hesitation, he bowed from the neck to the wraith and stood.
The honor is mine, Maquette the Illuminator. Your name is familiar to me. I have read some of your books,
he replied in fluent Dakari. Maquette recoiled. Maquette recoiled in surprise, then clasped his hands up against his chest.
You have?
Of course. Your histories on the matriarchal histories of Dakdir were superb. I spent several months following up your primary sources. All solid, unsensationalized, and authentic. Marvelous work.
Cut that one out there.
The billowing form of the sage swelled with pride. Well, I am flattered. To say that making study of the old queens of Dakdir was an arduous process is to understate the dangers. I could regale you with the tales of close calls. I could regale you with tales of close calls, betrayals. I could regale you with tales of close calls, betrayals, scandals.
I can only imagine, Nemeth replied. Might we also accompany you?
Maquette turned his sightless, shadowy face toward me. Sure, go ahead. Sure, go ahead. I gave him a thumbs up.
Thank you, Master.
As he flourished toward me, I felt him test my command, half-heartedly prying at my mental defenses. As wraiths went, Maquette was pretty chill, but as Vash had noted, he was, in fact, a soul-sucking abomination. He couldn't help himself, not when he was surrounded by all of these tasty living... He couldn't help himself, not when he was surrounded by all of these tasty living beings. In your dreams, I thought back to him. Get them to the library. Get them to the library and stop fucking around. If you need to feed before the mission, go outside the limits of Karhad and find some asshole bandits.
Ugh, bandits. How revolting. Ugh. To think I, Maquette the Illuminator, has been reduced to eating the essence of bandits. I used to be a vegetarian, you know. And while I have the utmost regard for the Master Sage, the sheer amount of knowledge I might consume...
No! No! I fought the urge to roll my eyes. If bandits aren't good enough, go eat the soul of a fucking salad then. Just leave our guests alone.
Sigh. As you command.
The probing stopped, and Maquette returned his attention to our guests.
Then, if all of you would be so kind...
As the five of them departed, I turned back to the remaining faces at the table. All right. Everyone else know what they're doing? All right. Everyone else know what they're doing? Yes, Your Grace. Istvan bowed gracefully from the neck.
Sir,
Vilmos saluted smartly. Vash yawned, scratched his crotch, then gave me a thumbs up. Then let's go get some rest. I looked back at Karalti, who smiled. And enjoy every second of it, because I feel like we're about to land feet first in a literal royal shit show. Because I feel like we're about to land feet first in a literal royal shit show. Boop-a-doo, boop-a-doo. Boo. Boop-a-doo, boop-a-doo. All right. Here we go. Oh my goodness, I'm so hot. All right, what do we got? Smonty J. Baruch was here. Oh, is there a way to purchase an entire series from you guys instead of the episodes one at a time? Well, I don't think you're watching still, but not yet. But it's something that we're working on for Sound Booth Theater Direct. You'll be able to buy the entire series, and it will be discounted. So then it's a better deal than buying each episode individually. Consider the episodes kind of. I think eventually it's going to be more like those are advanced access. Evan Meidel, how often do you listen to a larger set of lines? I would get super lost of voices. Oh, God. Yeah, there's a lot of voices. I've got a folder of just a ton of voices from Archemi. So I keep voice recordings that you heard, and just listen to them as I go, because there's no way to remember them all. All right, JTJ does a good Vash impression, says Sound Booth Theater Live. I'm guessing that's Jeff. Jeff plays Vash in the actual book and or in the actual audiobooks, and his rendition of Vash is just very. Oh God, it's hilarious. Vash is hilarious just to begin with, but Jeff performing him is a match made in heaven. Ben likes trains. Did you make him swear, or is it different? I'm out. Definitely Hector swears a lot. There's a lot of swearing in Archemi. Just a heads up there for anybody who does not like that. All right, I'm going to switch microphones here. I'll be right back. There we go. Welcome to my recording space. Get a load of this beautiful, well, I think it's beautiful, Persian rug. I think you guys can still hear me. Testing, 1, 2. Yeah, okay, you can hear me. I'm coming through the microphone. If you're here, say hello. I know there's a couple people watching. I might be one of those people, so if there's only one person, that's cool too. Dash cool too. All right, so what am I going to do? I'm just going to take a break here, drink a little bit of coffee, and talk to the camera, which, of course, you can't see me right now. There we go. But if you are listening on the Sound Booth Theater app, of course, you cannot see me, but you can hear me, and maybe you can hear me looking at the camera. I just wanted to say thank you guys for listening, and if you are listening to this right, thank you. This right now, thank you. It is awesome to have such a great fan base as you guys, and narrating is such a kind of solo endeavor that to have people joining in and listening live, watching YouTube, but then also checking in with the recordings afterwards, it's absolutely fantastic, and it makes me feel great that you guys care enough to listen to these cold reads, which have a ton of warts and bumps and all of these kind of mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes during that recording session, so hopefully that's not too jarring. But thank you for making it all this way. I'm going to drink a little bit of my Starbucks here. So I'm thinking about getting a green screen right here. You know what? Maybe I should. What do you think? Should I move my camera here? Is that better? Yeah, I think that looks a bit better. I feel like I'm actually, talking directly to the camera. Yeah. Hello. Good. Hang up my jacket here. It's a bit of a mess. Yeah, I would show you more of my space, but it's not movable. I can't move this camera, so All right, what do we got going on? Let's check in on Facebook here. Tommy Malnar. Doobity doobity doo 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 doo. Check my email quickly. That's what I like to do. Oh, great. We got some more responses here. Okay, so this person has listened to all of it. So let's do open. So just taking a little break and checking some emails and just staying outside of my booth for a minute. Oh, you know what I should do? Here's what I'll do. I'm going to go ahead and play some more music from Trial by Fire. Let's get the picture back up. Oh, I guess I can hang down here. Nice. This is looking pretty good. This is a good program, SteamYard. I like it. All right, well, I'm going to play some music here, and you guys tell me if you like it. What shall we play? What shall we play? Let's do. We've been doing Trial by Fire today, so let's go with the TBF music. Okay, let's go with the Kanzo Chase music. All right. All right. It looks like Jeff Hayes is going to be going live with Cold Reads. Oh, is he? Oh, no, he's not. Okay. So they are up. I see. I see. I see. I see. Okay. Great. A lot of this stream, it sounds like, is just me kind of thinking out loud, which is, I guess, what a stream is in general. But okay, let me just check and see if there's anything pressing on Microsoft Teams from the rest of Sound Booth Theater. Lori, Gary, Justin, Lori. Let's see, editors folder. Whoop. Yes. We're planning some TikTok things. Can always let you know in the schedule meeting that if you can make it, you can. Oh, it's perfect. Okay. I really should play the music longer. Here, why don't I put on another track? Sorry, there's just a couple things for me to take care of, admin stuff. I'm going to put on another song. Let's do, so that's Kanzo's Chase. And then Kanzo's Workshop, that's only 1 minute. I need something a little longer. Let's do Making Friends. This is a fun one. This one is, oh, what are the longer songs? No, it's not very long. Let's do this one. Actually, let's do these two. How about that? Whoops. black. Crowned and black. That's what the name of this book should be. All right, I'm gonna get going here. Let's do this. So, all right. Let's get into the scene. Let's get into character. Ooh. What do we got? Dark fantasy style, intense, grounded, the calm before the storm. All right, let's keep going. All right. Okay. Water bottle here. Should be drinking more water. All right. We are officially 1/12 of the way through this story. Boom, 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 boom. Royal shit show. And 3. All right, let's see if we can make it to 1,500 today, or even 3,000 would be great. Chapter 4. When renovations had started on the castle, the ducal suite of Kalasahasi had been one of the first apartments to get cleaned up. There were no faded green and silver brontosauruses or lace dollies. Now, there were no more faded green and silver brontosauruses or lace doilies. There were no more faded green and silver brontosauruses or lace doilies. Now, everything was done up in the sky blue and black colors of House Dragozin, polished blue and black marble, black tile floors, dark, glossy wood. The dreary old portraits of dead nobles were gone, replaced by landscapes salvaged from the ruins of the old gatehouse. The sofa and chairs were upholstered in black leather with blue and white cushions, and the Bolza sauropod crest tapestries on the walls had been changed out for dragon-themed hangings. Almost all the work had been done by my grateful NPC volunteers in Karhad. Some part of me still felt I didn't deserve it. Karalty went ahead into the bedroom while I did my admin for the day. First up was the Kingdom Management System. The special menu used to manage Misno. The system showed that all my major NPC allies were now assigned to quests based on the orders I'd given them, except for one. Interestingly, Ibisa was free, and now listed as a recruitable ally of Misno. Curious, I brought up her NPC profile, and when I saw her stats, I whistled. Ibisa was a solid level 50 now, the highest level NPC other than Ignas I'd ever known. Her dexterity, wisdom, and DPS were through the roof. She was a straight-up assassin class, and some of her combat abilities were terrifying. She had a 15% chance to instantly kill any enemy she fought. Glad I never had to fight you until... Glad I never had to fight you in Taltos, I murmured to myself, querying how to recruit her. To my surprise, I got a quest alert. Recruitment quest. A Prince's Council. Juchi Ebisa, the Royal Assassin. Advisor, spymaster, provides herself. Perhaps you can be the one to put some of her concerns to rest. Reward. New recruitable hero. That was a strange little quest. I'd never actually... That was a strange little quest. I'd never actually gotten a specific recruitment quest before, though all the people in my court were technically NPCs I'd recruited through completing missions. Hey, Karalti, if you were an extremely dangerous Mercurian and you wanted to go somewhere to brood brutally, where would you go? Hey, Karalti, if you were an extremely dangerous Mercurian and you wanted to go somewhere to brood brutally, where would you go? I called back to the bedroom. Karalti thought for a moment. I could almost hear the gears grinding from the other room. I don't know. The cistern, maybe? Or the bell tower? Not the new one, the batty bat one. The bell tower? The bell tower. I could see that. I'll check. I want to catch her before I go down for the day, but if she's not there, I'll come back and sleep. You better, Karalti harumphed. I made us a nest in here and everything. Nest? For one panicked moment, I flashed back to our lovemaking in the grotto several days before. You're not like, Not like, what? She replied peevishly. Karalti was still close to the tail end of her heat, and she was hormonal. You're not fertile, right? I nearly squeaked. You're not fertile, right? I nearly squeaked. Loud, rasping, draconic laughter pealed from our bedroom. No, silly, or at least not with you. Even like this, I'm still a dragon. Thank God. I dashed some sweat. Thank God. I dashed some sweat from my forehead and leaped to my feet. Be back soon, okay? Be back soon, okay? Be back soon, okay? Love you. I love you too, she trilled reassuringly. Don't fall off the sky, Doc. The Batty Bat Tower was the old watchtower over the castle's skyport, the dock over the cliffs where airports could moor. The dock over the cliffs where airships could moor. There was a newer tower, more like a magically fueled lighthouse, which was used for signaling traffic. The old tower only had a bell and had fallen into a semi-dilapidated state. It was a pretty good place to go and sit and think dark thoughts, so I sprung up along the outside from scaffolding. It was a pretty good place to go and sit and think dark thoughts, so I sprung up along the outside from scaffolding to scaffolding, ran along a beam, jumped up to a broken wall, and pulled myself into the choked-off stairwell, heading up to the top. I was not surprised to see Abisa's thin silhouette crouched on one of the balcony. Rails, her elbows resting on her knees, her mask pushed up from her face. Kind of a stereotypical Kind of a stereotypical assassin-y place to come and think, isn't it? I asked her, trying and probably failing for humor.
It's far away from people, she replied bluntly.
Most Mercurians were finely sculpted works of art, crafted from metal, silicone, and intricate... Is it silicon or silicone? Who knows? Nobody knows. Nobody knows, actually. Silicone?
Silicone.
It is cone. There we go.
Crafted from metal, silicone, and intricate clockwork, Abisa hadn't quite reached the work of art. Work of art stage. Her creator, another Mercurian, had been working with whatever materials were available to him in Taltos, and so the king's blade had the look of a partly finished sculpture or painting. She had 6 red chunks of ruby mana set into her face in place of eyes, a bony, sharp face with a thin slash of a mouth, and a short, feathery cap of back-swept hair. She was compelling, in an alien sort of way, but by the standards of her own people, she was considered freakish, and illegitimate or novel creations like her were normally killed in spasms of mob violence. Her aversion to being unmasked around other people, Mercurian or otherwise, was understandable. I'm technically a half-dead, blood-addicted, gyroscopic mutant, so not really much of a people. I motioned to the balcony. Mind if I join? Abisa shrugged, then turned her face back toward the view. And what a view it was. The southern cliffs looked out over the city of Karhad. Night was falling, and the lamps were being lit, a wave of light slowly kindling over the heading city. Healing city. Parts of it were still ruined by war, but every night the lights seemed a little stronger. Brighter. That makes sense. Parts of it were still ruined by war, parts of it were still ruined from war, but every night the lights seemed a little brighter. You know what happened to Ignas isn't your fault, right? I gingerly went over and hopped up to perch beside her. There was no emotion in her voice when she spoke. I should have been there. I know you feel like you let him down, but he had you stay back for a reason. You were his insurance policy. He knew that if something went wrong, that if he was betrayed or captured, then he had the absolute best person available to rally people and pull him out. That's you, Abisa. Ah, why? There we go. Just some script fiddling. Oh. Abisa looked down. She couldn't blink or even really scowl. Abisa looked down. She couldn't blink or even really scowl. Her face didn't move much. Ignas is smart, I continued. We have to act quickly, but we also have to trust his decision to leave you behind.
He taught me almost everything I know about politics and strategy and shit. He taught me almost everything I know about politics and strategy and shit. He would have surrendered only because he believes we can get him out of there. And we will. We're working on getting logistical support from the Revalan resistance right now. Then you, me, Vash, Karalti, and Maquette are gonna go save his ass. There was a pause where Abisa showed no reaction at all. But then she dipped her head and turned her face toward me. He's proud of you, you know. Whatever encouragement I'd been about to try died in my throat. Wait, Ignas? Why? For what? He's talked about you with me, cares about you, thinks you've come a long way since you first met. She paused for a moment, lifting her chin to survey the valley beyond. He told me that he's proud of me, too, for choosing to serve the realm, for not caving to bitterness and walking the path of nihilism. It is so easy for a Juchi to fulfill the dark destinies they are told they possess. I didn't really know what to do with that revelation. Ignas. Oops. I didn't really know what to do with that revelation. Ignas. Proud of me? Proud of me? Yeah, he's the real deal, for sure. I feel a lot of things for Ignas, you know? Admiration, mostly. Some suspicion, I won't lie. He's a king, after all. Abisa snorted. He would see that suspicion as a sign of wisdom. I laughed a moment. Yeah, I guess he would. He's taken a lot of time to mentor me, actually. I feel like he really wants me to succeed as Vavode. He does. The Mercurian went still again, head poised, gazing out over Karhad. I am afraid of what Lucian Hart will do to him. Is he that bad now? Is he that bad now? I asked. Lucian, that is. Lucian, that is? Yes. That one word, and the certainty in Abisa's voice, sent a chill down my spine. From the first day I met him, Lucian had given me the creeps. He wanted to know if I'd killed people while I was in the army. He wanted to know if I'd killed people while I was in the army, and the vicarious excitement in his eyes and voice had set my teeth on edge. I figured he had fantasies about killing people for revenge and shit, but was too much of a coward to ever leave. I figured he had fantasies about killing people for revenge and shit, but was too much of a coward to ever actually man up and do it. I figured he had fantasies about killing people for revenge and shit, but was too much of a coward to ever actually man up and do it. Perhaps he was softer in the past, but now, the man is a butcher and a torturer, a creative one. And if the reports from Ilya are to be believed, entire villages destroyed. In one town, every man, woman, child, and animal was found chopped to pieces, piled into a mountain outside the town's chapel. Dragons have been snatching maidens, taking them to the eyrie. The girls turn up dead and mutilated days or weeks after. He reportedly captured a disobedient lord and his family, blinded his wife, and paraded her on a leash for a week before he and his dragon eat her and the children in front of him before he executed the man. I listened to the list of horrors in stark disbelief. I knew Lucian was bad, but fuck. We're moving as fast as we can, Abisa. That's the only reassurance I can offer. Indeed. I fear the worst,
Dragozin. For Ignas. For Queen Aslan and the Crown Princess, Sophie.
Abisa reached down to run her fingers over one of the dagger hilts at her hip. Abisa reached down to run her fingers over one of the dagger hilts at her hip.
But I have more than one regret.
Janos?
She nodded.
Janos?
I failed to notice the pin you spotted. Once you pointed it out, I saw him cover it. There was no mistaking his guilt, yet my hands froze. I told myself it was unwise to butcher the Crown Regent in front of the entire assembly, but...
Yeah, I sighed, squatting back on my knees. I sighed, squatting back on my heels. At the same time, though, if we had killed him in Vulcan Keep, what then? Would we have killed the entire Kingsguard as well? Staged a coup? If we'd taken him out, we'd have destabilized the entire nation. Every lord, lady, and opportunistic warlord would watch the center of Vlachia collapse. We'd have absolute chaos on our hands. At least this way, the country remains stable until we can bring Ignas back.
If we can't, the Corvinus line ends and the dynasty of Lance begins. Baldur Highland knows he can't conquer Vlachia through military might. He found another way. If Janos ascends the throne, it will be a puppet state under the Ilian Empire.
The day that beaky-faced douche lord becomes Vlad is the day Misno declares independence from Vlachia, I said, curling my hands on my thighs. And I bet there's a lot of provinces who'll join us. I know that'll weaken Vlachia too, but it's better than the alternative. Abisa grunted her agreement.
So, how do you plan to find Ignas? The Ravalan resistance?
Nethris, that starborn Valkyrie, is a member of the Kingsmen in Ilia. She works for Prince Alandi. She thinks Alandi will know who can help us in Ravala. Rutha will have already sent her back to Ilia by now. She's going to PM me as soon as she learns anything.
I am not confident.
Abisa frowned.
Resistance fighters won't know where Ignas is being imprisoned.
I'm more concerned with finding a way into the country. Setting up a temporary COO, and then putting out feelers.
COO?
Center of Operations. Sorry. But yeah, once we have a place to operate from, we can find a way into Lovey and start gathering intelligence. That's going to be one of the things we need you for, if you're willing to let me lead you. The Mercurian. That's going to be one of the things we need you for, if you're willing to let me lead you. The Mercurian lifted her head.
For the time being, you have my blade.
Would you like to recruit Abisa the Red? I telepathically swiped for yes, and watched as her profile joined the list of heroes available to deploy on the KMS. She automatically joined the Ignas rescue quest. You have completed recruitment quest, a Prince's Council. Thanks. I'll be glad to have you on our team. I thought about clapping her on the shoulder, then decided against it. How are you and Rin doing?
Rin and I? I don't understand.
I blinked. I thought you and she were, Abisa made a dismissive gesture of her head. Abisa made a dismissive gesture of her head. I aid Rin because we are both the orphaned daughters of Kanzo. She would like it to be more, but I am not capable of the relationship she desires. Oh, sorry. I thought back to the times I'd seen them embrace under the shadows. I thought back to the times I'd seen them embrace under the shadow of one of the airships in Taltos, or sitting shoulder to shoulder as they figured out some crafting puzzle. Are you sure? Are you sure? Sure of what? Abisa's head swiveled toward me sharply, like an owl's. That you're not capable of being close. I was definitely overstepping by this point, but, well, I mean, you and Rin seem to enjoy. You and Rin seem to enjoy being around each other. Should I unlearn a decade of hardship to become something soft and romantic? She laughed bitterly. Perish the thought, Dragozin. I know my place in this world. Your place as advisor and enforcer to one of the most powerful... Your place as advisor and enforcer to one of the most powerful kings in Archemi? I grinned. Because that's a hell of a resume. You're trying to fix me, the assassin replied after a pause. But you can't. I am a plain, sharp dagger in Ignis's hand, and that is all. Rin needs someone able to care. There was a lot to unpick in that There was a lot to unpack in that statement. Given how much she obviously cared about Ignis, but I decided against it. Well, just so you know, I think you're pretty great. Loyal, tough, skilled. Thank you. She cut me off, sounding even more closed off than before. Please leave me for now. Contact me for the operation and I will serve. Sure. I shrugged and hopped to the ground, heading for the stairs. I didn't want to leave her like this, but there was only so much. I didn't want to leave her like this, but there was only so much I could do. All right, that's a chapter break. I'll drink some water here. How's everybody doing? How are we doing over here? Yeah, a couple people watching. Do I read the books prior to narration? Evan Meidel is asking. Or is this truly a cold read? So it's not a cold read. Yeah, I do read through. Yeah, I call it the pre-read process. And yeah, I make notes, and this Excel document I put some notes into and adjusted and added the character voices and stuff like that. Is that pronunciation tool just Google? Oh, I just used Cambridge Dictionary in Google Chrome, so the browser. Yep, that's what I'm doing. All right. Karalti was waiting for me in bed, which was pretty much just a giant box filled with clean, warm white sand. As a Nepathian Dhampir, I was kinda sorta undead. And like all vampires of my lineage, I had to sleep in a box of desert sand to feel rested when I woke up. Fortunately, dragons also liked to nest in sand, so Karalti didn't mind. She had made a round depression in it big enough to fit both of us. She had made a round depression in it big enough to fit both. She had made a round depression in it big enough to fit us both. Oops. Hey, a tidbit, I greeted her, leaning the spear of 9 spheres beside the door. I found Abisa. She was in the Bat Tower, lurking, like you said. Kuralti uncurled and yawned, flashing needle-sharp fangs behind her pretty human lips. She held her arms open for me.
Oh, that's good. Was she okay?
Okay is... Okay is probably too strong a word. But she's on the team to rescue Ignas. I unequipped my armor and underclothes, and it vanished into my magical void. Of inventory land. Kuralti crooned with pleasure as she took me into an embrace, dusty and smooth from the sand, and pressed her small hot body against mine. Once we bring Ignas home, I'm sure she'll feel better. Kuralti curled against me, nuzzling up under my jaw. Try not to worry about him too much. If anyone can rescue a king, it's us. We're the best. I stroked Kuralti's hair and tried to relax. But I was haunted by Abisa's stories of what Lucian had gone and done. You know, all this time I've been thinking of Aurorgiel as the worst person we have to deal with. I'm starting to wonder. Oh? Yeah. I frowned up at the silk canopy overhead. Aurorgiel's your average ruthless megalomaniac, but he's not really the kind of guy to torture someone to death for funsies. Lucian, though. I've been underestimating what he's capable of. Well, now we know better, right? Kuralti peered up at me with her lovely violet and silver eyes, one slim hand resting over my chest. I laced her fingers through mine and turned to smooch her on the forehead. Yeah, I guess we do. All right, that is the end of chapter 3. Or 4, chapter 4. There we go. And 4. Great. And let's keep going. 140. Now, before I forget, actually, I do want to just adjust Maquette's lines here. Hey, all right. I definitely, I hope you enjoy it. Dragon Seed was a fun one. Just starting out, it's one of my first narrations, it's one of those things that I look back and I'm like, I would do some things differently now. But the story's great. It gets you into the story quite well, and I think it just gets better and better as the series goes along, which is what you want in a series, because it's a big investment. It's a lot of time, The first book is 12 hours. Second book is, I think a little bit longer. All right, so that is all fixed. Let me just take a little stretch here. Here, I'll play another track from Trial by Fire while we wait. Let's do Kuralti Flight. I think we did that one. Let's do the boss theme, eh? All right, here comes the boss theme while I just do a quick stretch.
And there we have it.
The next one is actually, there's another version of that boss track later on, and Ahmed plays guitar on it, and it sounds way better than the fake guitar. Quick hello to anybody who's here, who just joined, is watching. Hope you're having a great day. I am about 2 hours and 15 minutes into this session, so I will be wrapping up pretty soon. Going to try to get the next chapter out of the way before 1 o'clock. That would be EST. All right, let's keep it going. Chapter 5. Oops, that's not the right track. Chapter 5. I woke up to a ringing party chat notification in pretty much the same position I'd fallen asleep. I woke up to a ringing party chat notification in pretty much the same position I'd fallen asleep. Flat on my back, Karalty sprawled over me in a tangle of limbs. Blearily, I opened my HUD and checked to see who was calling. It was Nethris. "Got news for you." Let me just make a note here. Nethris 2 p.m. Oh, actually, I should move this. Oh. Looks like that's already good. She said, "Good and bad." "Go ahead." I made sure my camera was off. Karalty and I were both stark naked and covered in sand. Not really the kind of impression I wanted to make on any rebel princes who might be looking over Nethris's shoulder. "Good news is, we have a contact in Ravala," she said. Her camera came on to show her in a darkened room lit by flickering lamps. It almost looked like a cave. It almost looked like a cave or a storehouse. Duke Helgi Torquist. He's young, but he's smart. He's been playing the political game, pretending fealty while secretly working to try and rescue the Queen, Princess, and possibly Ignas, too. Brave bastard. I squinted, grimacing against the glint of the rising sun coming in through the windows. The kind of brave bastard who's about 1 week away from getting his head cut off. Yeah, that's the concern. But the guy is loaded and well-connected. Ruth and you were right, too. There's a resistance starting up in the countryside. Lucien's public displays of cruelty are backfiring. I rolled up and went to close the heavy blinds. The sun didn't fry me to ash or anything. But it sure was uncomfortable. He's gonna see it as a challenge to his authority, so he's gonna bring the hammer down. And we all know what that'll be. Nethris blinked. "What do you think he'll do?" "A public royal execution. Ignas, Queen Aslan, and Princess Sophie at a minimum." Oh, right. Yeah, like what Highland did to the Warden and his people in Ilia. Nethris frowned. "What's the bad news?" "It's also good news, I guess. We know for sure that Ignas is being held in the Lion Palace. Spies in Ravala's court saw and heard him being taken to the dungeons. The Queen's down there too, but the Princess is not. The bad part is that Lucien is camped in the palace as well. Security is tight. Place is crawling with Ilian soldiers. Mercurians with Magitech weapons. Dragons. I'd been expecting to hear that, but grimaced anyway. "All right. What do we know about these Mercurians?" I asked. "What faction are they from? The Phaedra or the Zarians?" "What faction are they from? The Phaedra or the Zarians?" "The dragon-worshipping ones." "That'd be the Phaedra." "That'd be the Phaedra." I sat back down on the bed, covered Karalti with a sheet, and equipped some pants and a tunic before switching on my camera. They're religious zealots. They're using Magitech-powered armor units to suppress the city. Everyone's chattering that Emperor Highland's war machine devour any opponent they face. Apparently the stories are true. Yeah, and I bet... Yeah, and I bet Aurora Gale helped those stories start circulating. I mulled it over. All right, that's a great start. Is Prince Alandi willing to meet? Nethris shook her head. No. You're too closely linked to the Eyrie. He's willing to believe there's a rogue Queen's Rider, as he put it, but he wants to see what you do in Ravala before any meetings. He's willing to help you get in contact with Torquist, though. Issued me a quest to make contact so you can speak with him. You want to set it up? She shrugged. Sure. Great. When do you think you can make contact with Torquist? Great. When do you think you can make contact? Great. When do you think you can make contact with Torquist? Today, Nethris said. I'm disguising myself as an Ilian Dragoon scout and flying my quasi to a checkpoint, then swapping disguises there. A lone rider isn't likely to be seen or stopped. Yeah. I frowned. Just be careful. Take magical shielding if that's something that exists. I don't trust Aurora Gale not to set up some kind of magical checkpoint system. I have a runic chant that increases my armor. Nethris ran her hand back over her braided hair. What's the time in Misno now? I checked. 0:57. 07:15. 07:15. So you're 6 hours ahead of me, she replied. It's 1:15 in the morning here. I'm setting off as soon as we wrap up the call. Go. Travel by night as much as you can. I raised a hand over her. Take care, all right? Take care, all right? And thanks. Sure, we will. Nethris seemed even more stoic than usual. I'll message you once I link up with Torquist. Don't know when that'll be exactly, but get ready to fly in what you're dragging sometime this afternoon. I think you can teleport to party members. As long as you're not imprisoned or captured, yeah. Talk to you later. Nethris gave me a wan. That's always a weird word for me. Wan. Nethris gave me a wan, humorless smile, then cut the call. A solo flight ride into the middle of Ravala. Yikes. I winced. Godspeed, Nethris. Karalti stirred beside me, flailing out with a hand. Don't worry yet, Tidbit. Get some sleep. I shuffled back off the bed, tense and alert. Gonna go distribute some points and XP while we wait for Nethris, and see if Nemeth knows anything about Lovey Palace's dungeons. I'd hit level 34 after fighting the Voidworm Empress in the Bashir. She'd been a ridiculous level 120, and it had taken an entire army wailing on the outside of her. And it had taken an entire army wailing on the outside of her, plus me and Karalti attacking her from the inside to take her down. Sadly, we didn't get level 120s. Sadly, we didn't get level 120's worth of personal XP, meaning I was still 1,900 points away from reaching level 35, when I'd get access to level 7 combat abilities. All things considered, though, my sheet was looking pretty good. Dragozine Hector, Daunton, Toon, level 34, Dark Dragoon, stats, strength, 91 plus 12, dexterity 110 plus 5, stamina 53, will 139 plus 25, wisdom 65 plus 10, intelligence 51. I don't know how much that's going to be. On hide. There we go. Let's see, 1,446 is like 5,000. The following is the character stats for Dragozine Hector, Daunton, Toon. Press skip to return to Archemi. All right, let's do... And duration increase by leveling this ability. I had 20 unspent points from my last couple of levels, enough to bump me up 3 level 3 skills, 2 level 4, and 1 level 5. I decided to increase Black Lotus, which only took 1 point, and 2 of my level 3 abilities, Shattering Darkness, which was one of my most useful attacks against armored opponents, and Rain of Glass, the 3rd stage of my powerful jump, Master of Blades, Rain of Glass combo. Rain of Glass. Rain of Glass 4 Chain from Master of Blades. Twist acrobatically mid-air, unleashing a second blast of dark energy shards down on a group of enemies. 137,000 damage and number affected. Increase shattering darkness 4. And attack that freezes and cracks an enemy's natural or man-made armor. Reduces enemy damage reduction by 18%. Black Lotus 2. You manifest a terrifying garrote of shadow that wraps around you. Yada yada yada. Blah blah blah. By leveling this ability. The remaining 15 points I held on to. I'd get 25 more when I hit level 35. From that level on, I could only raise my abilities every 10 levels instead of every 5, and they got expensive. 30 points just to raise Shadow Dance 30 points just to raise Shadow Dance 6 to Shadow Dance 7. Level 30 was where the XP curve started to flatten and the grinding really began. I would have to pick and choose my combat abilities carefully. Moving forward. After my sheet was done, it was time for skills training. Chapter 5C. Chapter 5B. Chapter 5A. My advanced path could pretty much be summed up as dodge. My advanced path could pretty much be summed up as dodge-based flying nuclear cannon in terms of how it played out. Oh, where am I? High mobility, high damage, lowish defense. To complement Shadow Dance, there were skills I was bent on leveling to the limit. The acrobatic and aerobatic skills that gave me and Karalti an edge in almost any fight between us and other Dragon Rider teams. Kalasahasi's tall Gothic towers were perfect for this kind of stunt training. Kalasahasi's tall Gothic towers were perfect for this kind of stunt training. I scaled the walls, jumped between parapets, walked on my hands over the merlons. Even though I was now reaching the early advanced levels in acrobatics, gymnastics. Even though I was now reaching the early advanced levels in acrobatics, gymnastics, and parkour, there was still fear. Every time I died, it was, not great. But I made a point of confronting that fear every day, training every day, adding experience points to the pool every day. And that's why I settled down to review my quests while balancing along one of the banner poles that hung over the gate to the Great Hall. Let's see. Yava's Garden. That's definitely one to get on. Let's see. Yava's Garden. That's definitely one to get done soon. Let's see. Yava's Garden. That's definitely one to get done soon. I had my HUD narrator, affectionately known as Navigale, read the quest description aloud. New side quest, Yava's Garden. Special. Renown depends on the methods used to construct the garden and the quality of the end result. I wasn't going to spare any expense on this small project. Istvan had become one of the cornerstones. I wasn't going to spare any expense on this small project. Istvan had become one of the cornerstones of my kingdom. He kept Misno on track while me and my team cleared quests and kicked ass. He paid the bills, held court in my absence, drilled soldiers, handled hiring. The list went on. It felt right to do the work. It felt right to do the work of creating the Memorial Forum. I planned to hire the best landscapers I could find to build it while we sorted out the mess with Janos. From my precarious position above the courtyard, I could see the kitchens, a blocky set of buildings between the gatehouse and the castle gardens. I leaned backwards on the banner pole, bending from the waist until one foot left the iron rod and my hands made contact and let out a little hup as I pulled it into a reverse handstand. Gripping the bar, I walked on them back to the wall, triggered my spider climb ability, and scuttled down the face of the Great Hall to the ground. The soldiers at the door didn't even flinch. They were used to all sorts of weird shit by now. Istvan's place had been on the other side of the gardens. When it had been whole, it would have been pretty, like some country cottage in pre-war England. Right now, it was a sad ruin. The fences were broken, the garden a pitted wasteland. The roof had burned away, leaving the thick cob walls slumped into piles. There was rain-rotted furniture tumbled inside, barely recognizable. Man, this place feels haunted as hell. 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 Oh, ooh, 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 ooh. Got an itchy nose. Hoya, hoya, hoya. As I removed my helmet out of respect, my eyes caught a flash of color among the gritty black and gray, a half-withered bouquet of blue flowers left on the doorstep to the house. I trudged over and squatted down to get a better look. It was a small shrine of sorts. Flowers, a candle in a jar, and a locket under a tiny wooden shelter. I picked up the locket and cracked it open. There were 2 tiny paintings inside, one of Yava and one of her and Istvan's daughter, Mina. His wife had been Yannick, one of the native peoples of Misno. She'd been an elegant, fierce-looking woman, with a very long plait of thick black hair and big, round brown eyes. Their kid had her eyes and hair, and Istvan's sharp jawline. and Istvan's sharp jawline. She was smiling. She was smiling, full of innocent warmth. She wore a crown of daisies in her hair. God. Poor Mina. God. Poor Mina. I murmured. Poor Istvan. Nope. I sucked on one of my teeth. I sucked one of my teeth as I took in the details of the paintings, then looked over the ruined yard. As I did, an image of what could replace the ruins began to take shape, and I was fairly sure I knew the people who could help craft what the place needed. It would be a memorial for Yava and Mina and Istvan, but also for the people of Mizno themselves, and, to some extent, for me. Like Istvan. And, to some extent, for me. Like Istvan, I'd once lost everything. My family, my world, my life itself, because of someone else's stupid fucking war. Because of someone else's stupid fucking war. Don't worry, ma'am. Don't worry, ma'am. Don't worry, ma'am. I'll take care of him. And I'll bring your flowers back to life. And I'll bring your flowers back to life. I promise you that. I snapped the locket shut and gently replaced it in the shrine. As I did, I felt a small, oddly warm breeze shift over my face like a caress. It ruffled the ashes inside of the house, stirring up a little whirlwind that settled back to the floor. As I watched, wondering if Archemi did actually have ghosts, other than Vasha's sister, my HUD chimed. It was Nethris. I patched her through and started to pick my way back through the wreckage, heading for the Great Hall. Heading for the Great Hall. Go ahead. Turquist wants to meet. Torquist wants to meet, Nethris said. I've marked the coordinates on our party map. He says to be there within the hour, or the deal is off. All right. Well, I really like this scene. I'm wondering... There we go. Just going to color the script in a little bit. Mark it for music. Oh, nice. I already thought of that. Oops. Music end. All right, there we have it. Wonderful. Well, that is the end of the chapter. I'm just going to mark that in Ableton. And hell, we did pretty good today. We got through... Oh, how many sets? God. Well, not a full set, actually, but got through 3 chapters, I think. And 5. Very nice. Well, great way to end the chapter. And great way to end the stream. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. I'm glad you were able to make it. And let's do this again. I will be back tomorrow. And... yeah, tomorrow, 10 a.m. Be here or be clear. Y'all have a great day, and I'm going to leave you with another recording. What should I play? Oh, I know exactly what we're going to play. The Corvinus Royal March from the end of Trial by Fire, Archemi Online, Book 2. Thank you all again for listening. And I'll see you next time.